Hello everyone, this is a quick video. I'm gonna tell you about my experience about Linux. So these days I've been trying to install Linux. Like I was trying to choose first a Linux distribution. So I tried a handful of those, and well, I'm gonna give you a really straight to the point stance on it. So let's get into my text editor here. So based on my hardware experience and opinion, and there is my hardware. So I have NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650 for the GPU, CPU Intel i5 1000 or 10400F, which is basically the 10th generation, I think. And I have 12 logical cores, 6 physical cores, 4.3 gigahertz, of course, for the frequency. And this is my computer right here. Cool. Of course, right now I'm using Manjaro Linux. But yeah, whatever. Let's go to the editor right here. So that was just a little disclaimer there. And of course, I do have UEFI boot, not BIOS boot. So there's two main choices when it comes to picking up a OS or an operating system. There's Windows and there's Linux. So I've been a Windows user. It's been fine. Well, not the best performance when it comes to performance, especially if you have an old computer. If you have an old computer, just go ahead, go directly to Linux. Don't ask questions. Especially if you're gonna run Windows 10, you know. And it's pretty much the only thing you can do with it. Like, and Windows 10 actually, the Windows 10 support will drop out, you know, for Windows 11. And Windows 11, only the new hardware or the relatively new hardware can run it, because of some strict requirements from Microsoft. So you're probably gonna go to Linux right now or later. Doesn't matter if you have a old machine, but whatever. So for Linux, I tried two distributions, or actually two main distributions, should I say. So there's Debian, there's Arch. Okay. So for Debian, it was really a bad experience for me. For my hardware, at least, it was crappy experience. You know, it's like crazy. I'll come to it. And there's Arch, who worked magnificently for me, perfectly for me. So the thing is, Debian is supposed, well, not really Debian, but its distributions. It's like child distributions like Ubuntu, Pop OS, and Mint. They're supposed to be like beginner friendly, really stable, and all that whistles. But well, for me at least, God, it was the most unstable. Like, of course, I did only try on my machine Debian and Arch. So Ubuntu, Pop OS, Mint was really, in fact, you know, I'm just gonna talk about Ubuntu Pop OS, you know, because Mint didn't even boot for me. Well, it technically booted, but well, it probably had some kind of graphics issue where I couldn't see anything. Like, I know that there's some text right there. I can see some points, but there was nothing. Like, I couldn't see shit. Like, really. But the compatibility installer did work, and I actually installed the system using my compatibility installer that worked. So the standard installer, as I said, had a graphics issue. God. Well. So I tried to boot into the new installed system of Mint, and it didn't work at all. So the same thing as the standard installer. And well, at that point I was like, what the heck? But at least Mint didn't really waste a lot of my time, because it got straight into the point. This is not for you. Without any questions. And I couldn't even like do anything to save it or something. No, not really. And I did read a lot of questions, a lot of stuff, a lot of pages on the internet about this issue for my hardware and Mint and stuff like that. But nothing really worked. And pretty much I didn't even have any control over it. But I did have the compatibility installer, which I used to install Arch and stuff like that. So that was nice from them. But yeah, let's go to Pop! OS and Ubuntu. Pretty much Pop! OS and Ubuntu is quite basically the same, regardless of the like style and added the flat pack, etc., whatever the hell that is. But pretty much Ubuntu and Pop! OS worked for me. I did work with Ubuntu for a couple days, I think, or something like that. It was not bad. I mean, it's still working like as a system, but it was so slow, so buggy. And Ubuntu, when I was like Ubuntu with Pop! OS, like when you mess up the drivers or something like that, it's like you're just trying to switch between the drivers, everything is like can bug out and you're done. You have to reinstall the system again. So basically for Ubuntu and Pop! OS, I really had a horrible experience when it comes to stability and everything in between, It was horrible. And I also didn't really like the ideas of them, like the package manager, etc., etc., etc. And also they're usually like LTS, so you're like 6 month like if there is an application, you have to wait for the next 6 month release to actually get your update or the new updates. And if you install something from the internet, you might have like a clash between the system update and that application's what it's expecting. But yeah, whatever. So that was it for Debian. Debian didn't really work for me, at least for my hardware. But well, don't get me wrong, for my laptop I did try Ubuntu, and it was, I would say, not really the best because like there's Arch, but Ubuntu was fine in my laptop. At least it was flawless, kind of, because I have Intel and integrated graphics card right there, and it's not really a new like laptop. It's between old and new, so it's nothing crazy. So it worked fine for Ubuntu LTS. But Arch is not LTS or long-term support. Of course, there is a LTS version, and probably in Debian also there is like not an LTS. There's also the rolling release. Well, not perfectly rolling release, but whatever. Anyway, so for Debian, typically there's LTS, long-term support. So there's like updates. You get updates from 6 month to 6 month. That's the standard of Debian. For Arch, it's a rolling release. Of course, it does have again LTS. But the standard is like you get an update every time there is an update, basically. So there's the custom version, basically Arch itself. But then you have to deal with the terminal, you have to deal with a lot of technical stuff. So because you actually install the system from, literally from scratch. You have to go into a terminal and do everything related to the system yourself. Choose every option yourself. You can do basically everything, okay? And it takes time to actually do it properly and learn some stuff. And I actually learned a lot. And in fact, this was much more beginner friendly for me than Ubuntu, Pop! OS, and Mint when it comes to troubleshooting, and just installing the system. It was crazy. So like Ubuntu, Pop! OS, it was straightforward to install. But then after the install, god damn, bruh, that was crazy. But yeah, I did install Arch with XFCE desktop environment. As I said, there's a lot of options, even the desktop, because as for example for Arch, when you start off using a custom installation, it's like just Arch directly. When you end the installation process of the system itself, you have to go ahead, choose a desktop environment and install it yourself, okay? So like, because too simply you don't have desktop. It's like it's just terminal and you have to do everything from terminal using commands until you actually go ahead and install a desktop environment, okay? For Manjaro, it comes with a desktop environment. And there's actually 3 flavors. There's XFCE, there's KDE Plasma, and there's also GNOME if you want to. So basically Ubuntu's desktop environment. But yeah, I tried only XFCE and KDE Plasma because I already tried GNOME in Ubuntu and Pop! OS and didn't really like. I mean, it was fine. It was quite cool, not bad, but it was quite heavy for me. I just didn't like that much. Cinnamon was fine in the compatibility installer though. But whatever. Let's just go back. Okay, so XFCE I used it actually in the custom. Actually, I tried XFCE in the custom install, but after that you had to install everything yourself. It was fine. The system was working perfectly for me, and actually it was blazingly fast when it comes to performance because nothing was there. Only the things that I actually installed myself. So. You can just imagine how responsive, how fast the system was, and how satisfied I was. Especially the fact that I actually installed it myself from scratch, like using commands. That was crazy, and I learned a lot. For Manjaro, it's basically Arch. There's not like a lot of editing, involved. Like Arch is not heavily edited when it comes to Manjaro. It's not like, for example, Ubuntu, Pop! OS, and Mint. There's a lot of editing going ahead after Debian, because Debian also is like Arch. Is not really because you can actually go ahead and make your own distribution kind of thing, custom thing from Debian itself, but it's of course not beginner friendly. And also Arch customs thing, it's not beginner friendly. But for me, it was totally straightforward to the point. It was all good, like especially like to install the NVIDIA proprietary driver. It was just like sudo s pacman and like I guess, yeah, well, what the hell what I did. Okay, sudo pacman -s, and it was like NVIDIA. That's all. And if you have like a long-term support, you just say NVIDIA LTS. That was it basically. And the driver is already installed on your system. Look at that. And then there's also Intel Ucode thingy. I don't want to go into the details of that, but it was really straightforward to install everything. And I really had a really great experience with that. But Manjaro, it really gave me a lot of tools from the start, and basically the same experience as Arch. Is just that I didn't have to install everything myself, and it also give me a lot of quality of life stuff and features and themes and crazy stuff that I really liked actually. But yeah, that was it for this video. If you want a really more detailed video, let me know about this. So yeah, see you later guys. Goodbye. Oh god, how I can stop OBS. There we go.